our host, I want to tell you a little bit about today's session and how it's going to work. First, as we're going through today's presentation on master pages and page layouts, you will have an opportunity to use the GoToWebinar console to ask questions throughout the presentation. You should see it just to the right of the frame that you're watching the webinar from, and you can use that to submit anything that you'd like. And if we don't have time to answer all of the questions before we finish up today, if there's a large volume left, we'll get to those in a document after the fact. But you can always send us emails after the presentation to follow up with any additional questions as well. Secondly, I want to let you know that this presentation is going to be recorded. Everyone that signed up for the webinar today will get a follow-up email with a link to view the recording at your convenience. So if you do have to leave early, or if you do want to come back and watch a portion of this again, you will be able to. Lastly, we will be talking a bit about MadWorld and showing a discount on training towards the end of the presentation, so stay tuned for that as well. But now I want to introduce somebody who you maybe have seen around, maybe seen at MadWorld or at a previous webinar that we've done, or just maybe in the industry in general. Daniel Ferguson. He's a tech writer, instructional designer, and best of all, MadCap certified consultant. We have worked with him in the past, and he's a great resource and very knowledgeable with regards to what can be done with Flare and the companion tools that we produce. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to your host, Mr. Daniel Ferguson, for Master Pages and Page Layouts. Where do I begin? Daniel?
Thanks, Jose. I appreciate it. So good morning or afternoon or evening to everyone, wherever you may be listening from. I'm really glad to be able to be here with you today and to talk about master pages and page layouts. Master pages and page layouts are really an essential part of any Flare project. And to be able to deliver the kind of outputs that you want, you really need to have a good handle, even a mastery, I think, over time of master pages and page layouts. They're extremely powerful and can help you deliver the type of outputs that, that your users need. So to kick things off here, I'm going to walk through just a few slides here at the beginning to introduce the concept of master page and page layouts, what they do, how they work in Flare. But most of the time today is going to be a live demo where I'll be working in Flare, showing you how to use master pages and page layouts in Flare itself. Very quick introduction. Jose covered most of it. My name is Daniel Ferguson. I've got about 15 years of experience in tech comm. I've worked in software, hardware, business process environments, in requirements documentation. I've worked in very large companies. I've worked in very small startups. Currently, I run my own consulting company where I do Flare consulting and technical documentation contracting. I didn't begin using Flare until about 2.5 years ago. And when I started using Flare, it really kind of brought about a career revitalization for me. Opened up new possibilities, made it fun to be a tech writer for me again. Because it had the capability that I wanted to be able to deliver the outputs that pleased me, and that were pleasing to my customers. So there's my contact information. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free. I'll put that up at the end too. So let's jump right into it. What are master pages and page layouts? They're very similar in concept. A master page is an element that you can create in your project to apply certain content to many or all topics in an online target. And a page layout is the same concept, the same idea, where you apply page specifications and content, certain content, to many or all topics in a printed target. Now with that said, you can use master pages applied to printed targets, but that's not something I've ever done before. And the Flare documentation recommends to use page layouts for printed targets. That's what I use, and that's what we're going to cover today. So let's look at this sort of from a more visual perspective. What does this actually mean? So in your Flare projects, you've got topics, right? You have dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of them. These are the backbone of your project. This is where your content is. This is where the value is that you need to get to your customers are here in these topic files. But you can't deliver Flare topic files to your end users. They have to be built into some sort of a publishable, usable output. And this is where things like master pages and page layouts come in. When you build an online target, let's just say your HTML5 target, you can apply a master page. A master page will specify things like whether you want breadcrumbs on that site or on those pages in the site, if you want running headers and footers and what the content of those running headers and footers is. You can put structural elements like divs in your master pages to help structure and arrange your pages on your site. You can even put scripts in a master page. We'll walk through a simple one of those here in just a few minutes. And using this master page file, you can apply common elements to all of the topics in your project and can really deliver a lot of power and a lot of consistency to your online outputs. Same concept applies for print targets. You build your PDF target, for example, and you apply a page layout file. It specifies things like margins, again, running headers and footers, where you want the content on the page. You can put things like images. You can put colors, various decoration frames they called, that sort of thing. We'll get into that too in this hour. And using your page layout, you can specify what it is that you want your printed output to look like using the page layout file. Using these two different files and from your single sourced Flare topics, you can actually, if you wanted to, create pretty drastic different looks for your output if you needed to or if you wanted to. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail now. So on your screen, I've got on the left an actual screenshot of a page layout in Flare. One page type from a page layout, and on the right an actual topic. When I build this target, it combines the page layout and the topic into one page, which I can then take and I can email or print off and deliver or whatever to whomever needs it. Now, which of the elements on this page were driven by the page layout and what came from the topic? If we break it down a little bit, in this exact example, everything outside of the box there was defined by the page layout. So the header, which in this case includes a header frame and an image frame. We're going to talk about frames in the second half of this presentation. We'll get into detail in frames. The margins that I've used in this particular page were defined by the page layout using a body frame. And the running footer down at the bottom includes a footer frame, that's where the page number comes from, and that decoration frame, which is the orange bar down at the very bottom. And what did the topic provide? Well, simply everything that's inside the box. That's where all the content came from. And so you can see using page layouts and topics in concert with each other can really help you define how you want your output to look and make very attractive looking output. Let's look now really quickly at a master page example. So in my master page, again, this is a screenshot right from Flare. I've got three what are called proxies. I've got a breadcrumbs proxy, a topic body proxy, and a topic toolbar proxy. And I've also got down here at the bottom, I've typed in my company's copyright statement. The breadcrumbs proxy is pretty intuitive, pretty straightforward, I think. This is going to add a breadcrumb trail to the top of every one of my topics in my online output. The topic body proxy is where the content from the actual topic is going to be dropped. So it's going to go get the content from over here, from my topic, and it's going to put it where the topic body proxy is. And then I've included a topic toolbar proxy. In this case, the toolbar proxy includes next topic and previous topic buttons. There are other buttons that we can include. That's what is included by default. And we can talk about toolbar proxies in a little bit as well. So now, when I build this output, I get my online output here. You see I've got my breadcrumbs up at the top from the breadcrumbs proxy. I then have my content from my topic body proxy. And down here at the bottom, I've got my topic toolbar proxy, and you see my copyright statement, which I simply just typed in. Same idea here. The master page provided all of the common elements that I just went through, and those will be applied to every page in my online output, and the topic simply provided everything that's inside the box. So that is a rough or a quick overview of what master pages and page layouts are for. Now I want to dive into how to actually use these, how to use these in your projects, and we're going to go through some examples and build some master pages and page layouts. And as we do that, I think you'll get a little bit of a grasp, and hopefully, if you've never used them before, be able to run with what you learned today, and if you have used them before, be able to learn some new insights. Now I will say I have, in preparation for this demonstration, have created some styles that I will be using. Styles are outside of the scope of this particular presentation. If you want to learn more about styles, I would recommend going and reviewing Mike Hamilton's 3-part style or CSS webinar that he's been doing. The first 2 segments are available for download, and the final segment, which I think is next week, is open for registration. So you can learn a lot more about styles there, but just know that I have some styles that I've already created and that I'll be applying and using. I also am not going to be able to cover everything about master pages and page layouts. You're going to see a lot of options in the drop-downs and so forth that I'll be using. I'm not going to get to all of them. There's just too much to cover in an hour. But you'll get a good idea of how to use them. I'll show you some tips and tricks, and as you look through those drop-down lists yourself, you'll probably find some things that intrigue you and that you want to go do some more research on yourself. So we're going to start with a master page, and here's what we're going to do in Flare. First, we're going to go create a new master page, and we're just going to use all of the Flare defaults for a master page. We're going to work with the proxies in the master page a bit. We're going to look at what is put there by default and show what else could be put there. We'll add a copyright statement. I'm going to go in and add a div and create a div class. We will then add a script to this master page, and then we'll apply the master page to a target. We'll build the target and see how it worked. We'll then come in and create an alternative master page, and we'll apply just that master page to one topic in the project. Okay, so let me bring up Flare here, and I've got a project with some dummy content, not too much content. It's actually not dummy content, it's real content, but kind of jumbled. I took most of it out just so that we don't have to work with a huge amount of content here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do up here in my resources folder is see if I have an actual master pages folder, and I don't. And so I'm going to go ahead and create one, and this is my preferred way of doing it, is to just add the folder. You can also come over here to the project tab and you can select new master page, and you'll see it'll put it in the resources master pages folder for you. But my preferred method is to just right click on the folder, scroll down to new, and select new master page. Now there are a couple of templates that you can choose from, the glossary template and the master page template. I'm just going to go with master page because we're not working with a glossary, and I'm going to give it a file name of default. So this will be my default master page. So out of the box, this is what my default master page looks like. I've got a breadcrumbs proxy, I've got a topic body proxy, a mini TOC proxy, and a topic toolbar proxy. In the previous example, we had 3 of these proxies. In the slideshow, we did not have the mini TOC proxy. This particular proxy, what it will do is add links to any child topics that are below this particular topic in my published output. I use mini TOC proxies a lot, but I don't usually use them on every single page in an online output, and so I typically remove the mini-talk proxy. And this is how you remove a proxy. You can simply right-click on it and delete it. Now again, there are other places where mini-talk proxies are used and are very handy. In fact, there's some here in this project. I just don't usually use them myself in a page layout like this. Now there are other types of proxies that you can insert. If you come to the Insert tab and all the way over here on the right, there's the Insert Proxy option. You can see that there's lots of different proxies, and many of which can be used in page layouts, or excuse me, in master pages. I'm not going to go through all of these. I will point out a couple. The relationships proxy can be extremely handy if you're using relationship tables. The concepts proxy can also be very handy if you've got related concepts that you've built. Using those two proxies, you can really add a lot of dynamic content to each one of your pages to provide links to related content, to content that's related to whatever content is on the specific page that the customer is looking at or your user is looking at. So I've got now 3 proxies that I'm going to start with. Now I'm going to go add my copyright statement. So I came down here to the bottom proxy. I'm simply going to insert a paragraph, and I'm going to type in my copyright statement. I could also use a snippet for this, but for this demonstration I'm just going to type it in. And I'm going to apply my copyright style that I've already created. So it pushes it, gives it a little bit of a margin on the top, puts this border in. If any of you are interested in any of the styles that I use in this presentation, feel free to send me an email and I'd be happy to share them with you. Okay, so I've got the beginnings here of a master page. My proxies, put in my copyright statement. I want to add now a script. This is a very simple script. In this particular script, it's going to be a feedback button that people will be able to click. So to insert a script, I come in here to my Insert tab, and way over here on the right again is the Insert Script button. So I click that, and I get this Insert Script dialog box. This particular script is done in JavaScript, so I'm going to select the JavaScript language. I'm going to go grab my script. I've just copied it here into Notepad, so I'm going to copy it from this and put it into my script code. What this particular script is going to do is add a feedback button, a feedback link, right? And when somebody clicks it, it's going to open up their default mail client, and it's going to put my email address in the To field. It's going to grab for the subject help site, and then in parentheses the document title, the first level heading from that particular page. And in the body, it's actually going to grab the URL of that particular page, and I'll show you how that works. So using that, I can include a script. This is a very simple script. I've seen very complex scripts used on master pages, and I've seen a lot of people use scripts for things like site analytics, when they want a particular piece of code to be included on every page in order to help them gather site analytics on how people are using their their help site. Now I've also created a style for this feedback button. It's actually a div style. I'm going to come over to my Home tab, and I'm going to select this group button, and I'm going to go down and select div.sendFeedback. It moves it over to the right and turns it into more of a button type look when we build the output. So I'm going to save this, and I'm now going to come apply this master page to my HTML target. So to do that, you'll come down to the Advanced tab, and about halfway down here there's this master page option. And I'm going to click that, and I'm going to select my default master page. And this master page is now applied to this target. So I'm going to go ahead and build the target, and we'll see what we get. So here's my output as it currently stands. So I've got my breadcrumbs from my breadcrumbs proxy. I've got my content from my topic body proxy. Here are my toolbar buttons for next topic and previous topic from the topic toolbar proxy, and here's my copyright statement. All of it's there, and over here is my feedback button. Again, when I click that, it just brings up the default mail client, sends an email to me, grabs the H1 from the topic and the URL. And so somebody could send me feedback on this topic if they wanted to. So as I go through all of the topics here in my project, you can see I've got the same, let's get one that's a little shorter, I've got the same elements. I've got my breadcrumbs, I've got my content, I've got my forward and back buttons, I've got my feedback button, I've got my copyright statement. That gets put to every single page in my project because of what we did in the master page. Now let's suppose that I don't really like how this looks, that I want to make some changes to it. Maybe I want to increase some margins, add some white space off to the sides or something. One of my favorite things to do in master pages is to use divs. I want to apply a div to, I've already applied one, of course, here to the script button. I'm going to apply another one to all of the content. My preferred way to put a div in is simply to type it in the code. So I'm going to put one just before the content starts and right after the content ends, an opening div tag and a closing div tag, and now all of my content is in this div. I can now go create a div style to do whatever I want with this content. So I'm going to jump over to my style sheet. I'm going to make sure I'm in the default medium. I'm going to click my div style, and I'm going to add a class, and I'm going to call it container. And let's say, just to be really quick here, I'm going to give it a little bit more of a margin to the left. We'll just say 50 pixels. Again, I would refer you to the CSS webinars that Mike has been doing for more best practices and guidance on how to use CSS. I'm just going to do a quick example here just simply to demonstrate how this works. I'm going to give it a little bit of a margin on the top, maybe 20 pixels. And let's say I want to constrain the width. So I'm going to give it a max width of, we'll say 850 pixels. Again, these are all just examples. So now I've got my div.container style, and I can come back to my master page and I can apply that style to my content on my master page. Save my master page, and when I rebuild my content, rebuild my HTML5 site, you see now we've got a little bit different look. We still have our common elements. We've got our breadcrumbs, we've got our content, we've got our buttons, our feedback, our copyright statement. But we've got that 50 pixel left margin, we've got a 20 pixel right margin, and the width is constrained to 850 pixels. And again, this gets applied to every single page on the site. And so using that div, I was able to make some adjustments to the overall appearance of the content here on my HTML5 site. Divs are extraordinarily powerful in HTML output. I would strongly recommend that if you're doing a lot of HTML output that you get up to speed on divs and on CSS because they really open a lot of possibilities on what you're able to deliver in your online outputs. Go watch those CSS webinars and do some reading on divs. There's a ton of content out there just on the internet because these are just HTML and CSS standards. And so you can really learn a lot. So I've now gone through, I've created a master page, I've applied it to my target. What if I want a slightly different master page for just one or two topics in my online output? How do I do that? So we're going to come back in. We're going to create a new master page. This time I'm going to call it alternative master page. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it because this is just for demonstration purposes. But let's say, for example, I want my topic body to look a little different. I'm going to stick this in a div. So I've added my div tag now to my topic body proxy, and I'm going to go create a style for that div. So we'll create a class. We'll just call it div.alternative. I'm going to make this really ugly, simply so that you can see a stark difference. We'll say we'll give it this div a background color of like bright yellow, and then maybe add a little padding just to pull it away from the edges a little bit. So I've got my new div class, I can now come back into my master page and I can apply that class to this div. You can see we're going to have a very interesting looking output with this particular topic body, but again, it's just for demonstration purposes so that you can see how this works. Okay, so now I've got a new master page. Now, how on earth do I apply it to an individual topic? Well, to do this, you need to come back to your style sheet, and you actually come in and you create a class of HTML. So your HTML style, we're going to come in and we're going to add an HTML class, and we'll call it alternative as well. Now, with the alternative property or the alternative class selected, we'll come down here into the unclassified group and scroll down here a little bit. There's a style called MC Master Page. When we click here, we see that both of our master pages that we have currently in this project are listed. And for this particular class of HTML, I want the alternative master page to be selected. So now I have an HTML.alternative style with the MC master page set to alternative. Now there are a couple of ways to apply this now that this style is in place. There's a couple of ways to apply this to an individual topic. Let's say I want to apply it to the first topic of my project here. The first way is to, from the Content Explorer, open up the file properties, and from this topic style class drop-down list, select alternative. There are some other options here which are built in by default by Flare, but select alternative in this particular case is the one that we built, and select OK. Now what that actually does is it adds a class. It adds that alternative class to the HTML tag. You can see it as I hover over here. You see that class alternative. Let me do it again. You also see it over here in the code. So rather than the other way that you could do this is just right-click on the HTML block element, come down to Style Class, and select HTML.alternative for this particular topic. Okay, now let's build our output, and you'll see that this first page now has a totally different master page applied to it. It's got our breadcrumbs, that was in the master page. It's got this, this yellow background which we applied to the div, and it's got the buttons. That was exactly what we specified in this particular alternative master page. So using that method, you can come in and you can apply master pages to individual topics in your output, and you'll see that none of the other topics assumed that master page. They all have the default master page, the remaining topics in the project. So what are the next steps for master pages? Well, like I said, I think really become proficient with using divs. I think that will open up a ton of possibilities for what you can do in your master pages. And I would recommend learning about the different types of proxies that are available to you in master pages and how flexible and powerful those can be. The Flare documentation has excellent documentation on proxies, on how to use them and what they do. And so go spend some time there and learn about them. We don't have time to walk through all of them in this particular demonstration. So that is what I wanted to cover with master pages. I hope that gave you a feel for how to use master pages in your project, how to apply them, and how to use multiple master pages if that's what your project requires. Now I want to spend the rest of the time talking about page layouts. Page layouts, I think, are a little bit more complex to use than master pages. So here's what we're going to do with our page layout in this demonstration. First thing we're going to do is go in and add front matter to our table of contents, like a title page, copyright page, a table of contents page, those kinds of things. Things that you put in a printed manual that you don't put usually in online output. We're then going to create a new page layout with several page types, which I've listed here. A title page, a right page, a first right page, empty right, left, and empty left pages. Now why all these page types? Because what we want in this output is alternating left and right pages in our output. Now, I will say that this, in my experience, is becoming less and less common to have alternating pages. More and more of my clients are asking for output that is PDF output that is optimized for use on the screen. And in that particular case, alternating left and right pages doesn't add anything. And so the scenario we're going to walk through here is more complex than I have been seeing customers ask for lately. But if you can do the alternating left and right pages in the output, then you can do the non-alternating pages as well. So I chose to take a little bit more complex scenario. For some people, this is still a requirement to be able to do left and right alternating pages. And so we'll walk through that. And I'll talk about how you would do it if you didn't need to alternate left and right pages. So we're going to create all those page types in our page layout. We're then going to go through and add the frames that we need to each of our page types in the page layout. We'll then apply that page layout to our TOC to specify which pages in our TOC should have which page type from our page layout. We'll walk through a couple settings in the PDF target, and then hopefully we'll have time to be able to go in and create an alternative page layout. And for our example, I'll just use landscape pages, and then we'll apply that page layout to another topic in the TOC, so you can see how to use multiple page layouts. I will say it's very common to have multiple page layouts in a project rather than just one page layout. And I'll talk about some of the reasons why people do that and some of the scenarios in which they use them. All right, let me close out some of this stuff to give myself room to work. We don't need any more master pages. We'll still use our TOC. All right, so I'm going to come into my TOC. I'm going to add my front matter, my title page, which I've already built, my copyright page, my contents page. These three topics I want to appear only in my print output, so I'm going to give them a condition of print only. And I've set the conditions appropriately down here in my targets so that the PDF includes print only conditions and the HTML excludes print only conditions. And then I'm going to come and I want to add page layouts again right here in my resources folder where I added my master pages. So I'm going to add a page layouts folder. Page layouts. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to say new page layout. Now there are a lot more templates to choose from here. Factory templates for page layouts. You see they have templates for different page sizes, A4, legal, letter. They have one here for resizable. What that means is that the frames within the page layout are anchored to the edge of the page, so if you resize the page, the frame resizes along with the page. Hopefully I'll be able to show you an example of that. And some others that you can come in here and look at and see what they are and how you could use them in your project. I'm simply going to select the default page layout so that I can show you how to build one from the ground up. And I add it. Okay, so here my default page layout is open. Now let's walk through just some of the elements that you see here on the page. Up here at the top is the local toolbar. This is where you'll select everything that you want to do in your page layout. This has all kinds of options. We're going to use some of them to build our page layout. Here in the main screen, you see the actual layout of a page. And over here on the right, you see a small thumbnail of a page with an N in it. This N identifies the page type of this particular page, and the orange outline specifies that this is the page that's displaying in the main window. We are going to add a bunch of other page types, like I said in my introduction to this segment. And so we're going to see 5 or 6 different page types down here over on the right. But the default is to start with just a normal page. In this scenario, we're actually not going to use a normal page type. If I was creating a page layout where I wasn't doing alternating left and right pages, then I would use the normal page template. and I would specify my header, how big the body frame should be, and the footer, for example, and other things if you needed other things in there. Now, one thing I want to say before I dive in and start creating this page layout, you see here there's a blue line. This blue line represents the margin, and I have the margin set to view. If I turn it off, you see the blue line disappears. Now, one thing I want to point out about the margin, which is set here in the page properties, I have it set to 1 inch. This margin doesn't actually constrain the content within your master page. So, for example, I could click the body frame and I could stretch the body frame beyond the margin. And when I build this, Flare is going to adhere to the margins that I set with my body frame, not with the margins that I set with the margin settings on the page. And so really what this margin does is it's a guideline for you to be able to know when you're working with multiple page types, which you're going to be doing, to be able to see and know, how to fit stuff consistently on your different page types. So I'm going to come in and add some page types. I'm going to select this page properties drop-down list and scroll down to the add page option. And you can see we've got 10 different types here. I'm going to use a few of them. In my project, I want a page type for my title page. So I'm going to select that, and you see my title page thumbnail gets added over here. I want a page type for right pages. I want a page type for first right pages because I want the first right page of every chapter to look a little bit different than just a normal right page. I'm also going to add an empty right page in case there's some point in my output where an empty right page needs to be inserted in order for other pages to line up properly. I'm also going to need a left page, and I'm going to need an empty left page. Now, why didn't I insert a first left page? Well, I don't anticipate my chapters to start on a left page. If I wanted them to, then I could come in and put in a first left page, but I want my chapters to start on the right page, not on the left page. And so I don't need a first left page. Now, I don't need this normal page type anymore, so I can go ahead and remove it. And 6 page types that I need. So one of the things that, and we're going to go in and start putting frames in here and start building out these page types. Now, one of the things that I really like to do when I'm working with page types is to come in and give them, in my page properties, a page name. And I'll explain to you why I like to do this. So I'm going to give this a page name of title. By default, this has a page name of like Untitled 1 or something like that. Just to demonstrate, I'm going to put in my right page, I'm going to put in a header frame. And when I go to edit that header frame by selecting Edit Text, and we'll come back to that in a minute, it's going to pull up the page name and what frame I'm working in. I like to have the page name say right here what the page actually is rather than just Untitled 3. Because this frame doesn't adjust when you select, doesn't automatically adjust when you select different page types over here in your page type selector. And so it's good to know to always be looking up at this header to know which page you're working in when you're using these, the frame content edit window. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to quickly give all of my page types a name. So we have right, we've got first right, we've got empty right, we've got left, and empty left. There. Okay, I'm going to start with my title page. On my title page, I of course want my title to appear. And so I'm going to insert a body frame, and I want to insert it somewhere in the middle of the page roughly. This body frame is a placeholder, and what's going to show up in the body frame when I build my output is whatever is in the topic that I've assigned this page type to. So if we come back here to our TOC, it's going to pull, because I'm going to assign the title page to this title topic, it's going to pull the content from this topic, and we'll get back to this variable here in just a minute, but it's going to pull this content and it's going to put it in the body frame. And we'll see how that works. Now let's say also on this header page I want to include my company logo on this title page. So I'm going to include an image frame, and I'm going to select my logo, and I want it to show, let's just put it down here at the bottom roughly. That's good enough for demonstration. And I'm going to include a decoration frame. You can do a lot of things with decoration frames. In this particular case, I'm just going to put like a colored bar up here at the top of the page. So I'm going to insert my decoration frame, and I'm going to come down to properties. You can see there's a lot of different properties here that you can set in your decoration frame. In my case, what I want is just a background. I want a solid background, and I'm going to give it one of my saved colors for my my corporate coloring. And so I've inserted a decoration frame. You can also insert images in decoration frames. You can put text in decoration frames. You can put borders around them. You can do colors. You can do gradients. You can do all kinds of things with decoration frames. You can rotate them if you want to rotate the frame a little bit. I'm not sure why I do that in this case, but in some case maybe you want to rotate a frame around. I've got my decoration frame, I've got my body frame, and I've got an image frame, and that's good enough for me for my title page. So I'm going to save that, and now I'm going to move on and create the frames I need for my right page. Now I've already created my header frame right here. I also, on this page, am going to need a body frame, and I'm going to make this body frame the entire width of my margins, because that's what the primary content of the page is. And I'm going to also include here a footer frame. And we'll just draw that in. Now one thing to note is I have this snap option enabled, which is really nice, because as I get to something close like a margin, it snaps to that margin. And so as I'm dragging, I don't have to pay too close of attention to get it just right, but when I get close, it just snaps there like a magnet for me. Okay, so I've got my header frame, my body frame, my footer frame. So let's go and let's put the content that we want in here. Again, the body frame is going to come from the topic. So all I need to do is specify where I want that content to appear on my page. And this is where I want it, just right here, the big section in the middle. But the topic doesn't know anything to put in the header frame, and it doesn't know anything to put in the footer frame, and so I need to define those here in the page layout. I'm going to start with the footer frame. The way to put a frame into edit mode is to click it and either push F2 or right-click and go Edit Text. There's also a toolbar option up here that you can select. And it's going to ask me, do I want to pick a content template, such as a page number reference, or do I want to just insert the content myself? In this case, I'm going to click yes. I do want a page number reference. Now, do I have to use this template for the page number reference? No, I can go put it in myself using the page number variable. But in this case, there's a template for it, and so I'm going to go ahead and use the template. Now, if I wouldn't have used the template, what I would have done is come in here and in edit mode down here in my frame edit box, I would have come up and I would have said insert variable, and I would have selected the page number variable, and we'll get back to variables here in just a minute. But Flare had a handy one for me, so I just went ahead and used it, and now I've got my page number in my footer frame. In this particular case, I'm going to choose to just center the page number. We're going to have alternating left and right in the header, but the footer, I'm just going to center it. Now, towards the top of my footer frame, I would like to move it down closer to the middle. And so from my layout option, I'm going to say vertical align middle. That moved it down a little bit. The reason I want to do that is because I want to include a border on top of this footer frame. So I'm going to right click and come down to properties. I'm going to select border, and I want a top border. We'll say a 1 pixel gray border. If I click out of that, you can see now a really thin line. I've inserted a border right above the page number there. Now, remember when I gave all these pages page names? You can see that again right here. I know that I'm working in the right page in the footer frame. If I go click, for example, the header frame, you'll see that this didn't automatically adjust. I'm still on the right page, but I've got the footer frame loaded in the edit section here. And so it's always good, because I don't want to go start editing this assuming that I'm changing the header, right? It's always good to pay attention to what's showing up here to know exactly which page and which frame you're working in. Now to edit this header, I'm going to right click and come down and edit text. This time I'm not going to select a content template, and you see now I'm working in the header frame. Okay, so for the headers for this particular project, I want alternating left and right headers. And I'm going to put in the header the book title and the chapter name up in the header. And let's say I always want the book title to appear on the outside, so on the right side of the right page and the left side of the left page. So to do this, I'm going to insert a table. I want a table of 2 columns and only 1 row. And I want to make sure I set a fixed column width to 50% to split them right in half. Why 50% rather than inches or pixels or something or points? Well, using 50% allows this header frame to adjust automatically if I apply this header to a page layout with a different size. Let's say we do a 7:9 page size or A4 or something down the road. I can use this same header, and with the percentages set on the fixed column width, it can adjust to the size of whatever page we're putting it in. So now I've got my table, 2 columns, each at 50%. I like to put paragraphs in the table cells, and I do that just by pushing Enter. And now I've got a paragraph. So I'm working on the right page. So on the left side of the right page on my running header, I want to see the heading 1, the first level heading, the chapter name, so to speak, for this particular chapter. So I'm going to come and I'm going to insert a variable. Now, the heading variables that you see here and the system variables under this option are all default variables that Flare puts there. The variables tab comes from my variables file that I've defined down here, and we'll get back to this one in just a minute. So for this one, I want my level 1 heading variable, and over on the right side, I want to put whatever the book title is, and so I'm going to insert my book title variable. Now I've created styles for these paragraphs, so I'm going to apply this one to this style, the p.heading1 left, and over here the style, oh excuse me, I forgot to put on this one, I forgot to put in my paragraph tag, so let me insert that real quick and then come in and put in my book title. I'm going to apply my style p.booktitle right, and it's going to move it to the right side of my table there. And I'm going to save it. And you now see I've got my header built for my right page. Now in the interest of time, I am going to go through and, well, we're just going to copy these headings to the other right pages because we want the same heading and the same footer to apply on the other right pages, whether it's the first right page or the empty right page. Actually, let me take that back. Let's talk about the first right page for just a minute. So again, this page is going to represent the first page of a chapter. And let's say that this first page of a chapter, I want it to look a little different. I'm going to start my body frame a little bit lower, leave a little more white space up at the top of the page, like the top third of the page maybe. So it'll be visually different. People will turn that page and go, oh, I'm in a new chapter. It'll really stand out and they'll be able to see it. Now, because the chapter name is going to be appearing right here from my content, I don't think I'm going to include a header frame on my first right page. I think it'll be redundant. And so I'm going to go ahead and choose to leave that one off. But I do need the footer frame because I need the page number. What I can do is simply right-click this and copy it, and I can go paste it over here in my first right page. And now I've got my footer there in my first right page. Now for the empty right page, I do want the header and I also want the footer. What I don't want is a body frame because it's simply empty. It'll be inserted if we need an empty page in order for a chapter to start on a right page rather than on a left page. So same thing, I'm just going to go copy my header and I'm going to paste it in my empty right page, and I'm going to go copy my footer and paste it in my empty right page. And now I have my right pages created. Now I could just as well have turned this, if I had time I might do this, turn this content into a snippet and insert a snippet inside of my frame here and be able to reuse that snippet across multiple page layouts. But that's not what I'm going to do for this demonstration, but know that you can do that to be able to use common headers across multiple page layouts and maintain the ability to go edit just in one place if you need to change it down the road. All right, let's really quickly jump here to the left page. So on the left page, I'm going to use the same margins in this case. I'm going to use the same footer, so I can go grab the footer and paste it in. But I want the header to be reversed. I'm going to start by copying my right page header, and I'm going to paste it in. But then I need to come edit it and reverse the content of the header. I want my level 1 over here and my book title over here. Again, I'll verify I'm working in my left page header, and I am. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to delete this. On this side, I'm going to insert the book title variable. On this side, I'm going to insert my level 1 heading variable. I'm going to go make sure I have the proper styles applied. So in this case, I want book title left, and over here I want H1 right. And I need to make sure that I go into my left page and insert the body frame for the content. Good. And now we have one more page to deal with, and that's our empty left page. I'm simply going to copy the header, and I'm going to copy the footer. And paste that in. Let's see, maybe I didn't copy it. There. Okay, now I've got my page layout created. Now real quick, we need to jump over to our TOC, and we need to apply these page types to the different pages in our TOC. The way you do that is to right-click on your entry in the TOC and come down to Properties. And in Properties, you'll see this Printed Output tab. This is where you come in and you specify which page layout and which page type that you want to use for each of the pages in your TOC. In this particular case, I want to choose the default page layout. If I had more page layouts, I could select more page layouts right here. But right now I have only one in the project, and I want the title page for this particular, for my title page. Now I'm also going to come down here to page number, and I'm going to set the default page number format to Roman. Again, this is front matter content, and so I'm going to use Roman numerals. Now the title page doesn't have a footer frame in it, and so it's not actually going to have a page number appear in the output. But what this is going to show, or what this is going to do, is until I go change this page number format, it's simply going to apply the Roman format to all of the content up between the point where I change it. And I'll change it here in just a minute when we get to the actual content. So I'm going to keep going down here. I want my default page layout, and for my copyright page, I'm just going to continue left and right here. So whichever page it needs, I want Flare to either grab the left page or the right page. and apply that to the copyright page, and I'm going to do the same thing for contents, the table of contents page. Now we get down to the real content. This is where my real content starts. So we're going to do something a little different here. We're going to use a chapter break. We're going to select our default page layout, and we want our first right page type for that first page of the chapter. This is also where I'm going to reset my page numbering from Roman numerals to decimal. Now, if I wanted to reset the actual page number, I could. I'm not going to do that, but I could reset the page number here if I wanted to. It'll simply continue the page numbering, but it's going to change the format on how it appears. Now, something really important right here is I want to change the auto numbers. My chapter number, I want to reset it to 1. I want this to show up as chapter 1 in my book. And so regardless of whether these have chapter breaks up here, this is the chapter that I want to show up as chapter 1. And so I'm going to reset my chapter numbering to 1. I'm going to go through and make the same settings. Chapter break, choose my layout, first right page. I'm not, of course, going to reset the chapter numbering for these chapters because I just want them to increment. And we've got all the right settings, it looks like, here for this one as well. Okay, good. So we've now applied our page layout to our TOC. Now we got to make a couple settings here in our PDF target. Remember our book title variable? I defined that variable here in the variables file, but I'm actually going to set what it resolves to here in my target, and I'm just going to say SDK Programming Guide. This allows you to single source page layouts. If I add more PDF targets down the road, I can use this exact same page layout, and I can come in here and I can specify what the book title resolution should be for each of those PDF targets. Now down in, up here in general, I want to select my default page layout. Down here in advanced, I want to make sure that this inject empty pages setting is selected. This will allow the target to insert empty pages as needed in order to make sure that those first right pages show up on an actual right page. I also like to select use talk depth for heading levels. What this does is it uses whatever TOC depth we have here set in our TOC for the heading levels in the PDF output, rather than what the tag is in the actual topic. So for example, in this topic I've got an H1, right, as the first heading, but it's actually at an H2 level in my TOC. Well, specifying this will use the H2 rather than the H1 when I build the PDF output. All right, let's go ahead and build this, and if I've done everything properly, you'll get to see how it looks just before we finish here. Okay, good. So here's my title page. I've got my decoration frame. It's pulled in my book title. It's got my logo. It's got my copyright page. You see here I've got my book title showing up on the left and on the right. We don't have an H1 right here, a chapter name, because there hasn't been a chapter yet. And my chapter 1 is starting on a right page. It does not have a header frame. It does have the footer frame, and you see the page numbering has reset now, like from Roman numerals to decimals. And it continues on. There's chapter 2. Here we can see the alternating left and right header, and the page numbers look good. And so everything looks good. And so I've applied this page layout with an alternating left and right format to my book. Now, if you wanted to use multiple page layouts, what you would do is you would come and select and create a new page layout, and then here in the properties you would select the page layout that you wanted to use. It's very common to have multiple page layouts in a print output, and so that's how you would do that to support that requirement to have different page layouts for different sections of your manual. So that was a quick crash course there on page layouts. I hope you were able to get some insight from that and learn how page layouts work. I would encourage you to go through and really spend some time with the things that are available up here in the local toolbar. You'll be able to see what capabilities are available to you and to review the Flare documentation for more information on page layouts. There's a lot a lot that you can do with page layouts that can really improve your print outputs. Now, Jose mentioned at the beginning that MadWorld is coming up. I went to this conference in April. Terrific conference. I strongly encourage all of you to go out and register for this conference. I'm going to be speaking there. I've got 2 sessions, one on improving the search experience for users of your HTML outputs, and the other I'll be co-presenting with a good friend of mine, Paul Pearson. It's tool agnostic. It's how to run a consulting business. So I'm really excited about it. I'd like to meet all of you there. If you are there, come shake my hand. If you register before December 31st, you'll save $100. So go out and get that registration in today. And Jose, you wanted to talk about the discount that you're offering for training.
Absolutely. Great presentation today. And as a follow-up to what we've been doing with regards to our Intro to CSS series by Mike Hamilton that Daniel mentioned earlier, we have some trainings coming up in January that can be very useful for people looking to expand on their current Flare knowledge. And we have $100 off these advanced training courses if they're acquired prior to December 19th. So the advanced single sourcing training and the CSS training, both 2-day-long web-based courses. You can take advantage of that by contacting sales@madcapsoftware.com and mentioning this webinar. And with that, I think we are right about out of time. We're about the 9:03 hour. We did get a lot of questions answered through the console today, but I think we will be sending out a document with the last little bit, especially because some of these were so useful. A great presentation, Daniel. I want to thank you from behalf of everyone here at MadCap Software for this session. And any closing thoughts?
No, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. If you want to connect with me, there's my email address. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm happy to address any questions. If you have questions regarding this specific session, make sure to put them in the text box here in the online meeting so that we can get those answers out to all participants.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.